For those of you who have joined us recently, I'm your host, Manu, and this is the second edition of the Battery Show India 2024 by Informa Markets. This session is powered by Wycom. And for the next presentation, I would like to call upon stage Mr. Rishabh Upadhyay, Sales Manager, South Asia and ASEAN, BASF. The topic of the presentation is elevating battery performance with innovative cathode active materials and recycling solutions. Thank you so much, Rishabh sir, for joining us, and the stage is all yours.
So thank you once again, Manu, for giving us the opportunity to present here. I'm Rishabh Upadhyay. I take care of the battery materials business for BASF. So essentially, which is the CAM business for South Asia and the ASEAN countries. Today, I want to discuss about the importance of CAM. And I saw in the exhibition there are multiple players who are talking about the cathodes and different chemistries running LFP, NMC, NCA. So I would like to give you a context why everybody talks about CAM when it comes to lithium-ion cells, how much contribution it does in terms of performance, cost, and the carbon footprint, and how you can elevate your battery performance using the right selection of the CAMs as well. Okay, so I'll start with why BASF is present in this exhibition and what BASF contributes to the automotive world. So if you look at the business for BASF globally in 2023, we did about 68.9 billion euros in the business, and out of that, nearly 22% of the revenue came from the automotive division. If I talk about where we interact with the automotive value chain, so we start from the OEMs, and we dropped it down to all the tier levels, including the aftermarket as well. And the foray of the products that we serve into this industries varies from plastics, catalysts, coatings, different components of the automotive value chain, as well as the battery materials. I would like to add from the previous slide, okay, I should take it. But then what happens is you see a big chemical company which is serving the automotive segment. But if you look at the right hand side, it gives you one picture which says BEV multiplies by 2.5 times given ICE. What does this mean? This means once you move from an ICE vehicle to a battery electronic vehicle, the amount of chemicals that are present in the battery vehicle is 2.5 times in value than an ICE vehicle. So what happens is the importance of a chemical company, a giant chemical company, also gets multifold 2.5 times for the e-mobility applications. So thus it makes fully sense that we add on top of our existing broad portfolio for the ICE vehicles and add new products that can add into or can serve the e-mobility applications. So it starts from the thermal management system where we work on the car bodies, the interior parts. Then it goes to the electronic powertrain, which gets added into the BEVs. So you're talking about power electronics, electric motor application, drivetrain or fuel cell. Then we move into the car body where we get into the battery pack. In the battery pack, we have solutions for battery cells, battery modules, and the thermal management systems. And if I just leave the car and go to the next adjacent pillar, which actually is the charging infrastructure, we have solutions for housing and structural parks, cable and connectors, as well as the thermal management system. So this is a portfolio that has been developed by BASF as a group on top of the existing portfolio for ICE vehicles in order to cater to the e-mobility application. Now I will deep dive into the business unit that I manage, which is the battery materials business. And here we come to the specific cathode active materials. And our focus remains on delivering the high performance cathode active materials, especially in two chemistries for the EV market. One is NCM, which is nickel, cobalt, manganese, and the second one is NCA, which is nickel, cobalt, aluminum oxide. And then BASF also provides solutions in LCO, but it's primarily going for the consumer electronics application. So I'm not going to deep dive into that right now. But an interesting question. Now I come to the major topic: why everybody talks about the CAM when it comes to a battery. And not just a battery, when even it comes to the automotive OEMs, they will first check about what chemistry you are using, NCM or LFP, or why is there discussion so extensive around that. So there are three key levers when you are talking about a battery. The first one comes from the performance. So when you're talking about a battery, the performance which drives like parameters like the driving range, the charging speed, the cost of the battery, the safety and the durability of that battery is actually driven by the CAM, which is the cathode active material. But that's on the performance side. If I move on the cost side, if you take a full car, a full battery operated vehicle, nearly 30% of that cost of that car will come alone from the battery. And if I take the battery, the whole battery cost will come just 32% from the CAM. So you can imagine that the anodes, electrolyzers, separators, the casing, the manufacturing, everything, even the overheads and the salaries get contributed in 70% of that battery value. So 30% is just driven by one component. And then if you talk about the metals which are present in the CAM, they constitute nearly about 70% of that CAM value chain. So that's with respect to the cost perspective. But I move if on to the right and I talk about the CO2 footprint, which becomes even more important because the reason for getting into battery operated vehicles was actually to get the zero footprint of the vehicles. If I talk about the CO2 footprint, if you take about a battery operated vehicle, nearly 45% of the CO2 footprint comes from the battery. And if I talk about the battery, nearly 50% comes from the CAM. And if I talk about the CAM, 80% becomes from the metals. So what does this tell us? It tells us that when you are selecting your CAM supplier, you have to essentially ensure three main things. One, they are a company driven by R&D and innovation. Why? Because you want to be delivered on all the parameters that you're looking as a performance delivery. Second, from a cost perspective, the bigger the CAM supplier, or you can say the more global the CAM supplier, the more cost efficiencies or the economies of scale they will be able to drive. And the third, the company has to be driven by certain sustainability and ESG goals. Because then, if they will take extreme care on what sort of metals they select, what sort of CAMs they produce, and hence what sort of batteries you're going to get it. Now, with all this thought, BASF started their journey in this battery material. BASF is, of course, a more than 150-year-old company, but a battery materials division. We started from 2010 when we put up our first CAM plant in Elyria, US. We moved on to 2014 by joining hands in Asia with Toda Chemicals, and we made a joint venture in Japan. Then we moved further into Asia by putting up our joint venture in China with Shanshan Battery Materials. In 2023, we also established our own CAM plant, a large-scale CAM plant in Schwarzheide in Germany. Along with that, in the next year, or in this year, 2024, we have already started our prototype plant for battery recycling, which includes not just the black mass production, but also the metal refining from that black mass. And then we have also started the commercial black mass production in Schwarzheide in 2024. So that's a long journey that we have forayed. But then what does it give us? It gives us the first bracket, which means we are a global company. So if you look at the CAM suppliers in NMC today, we are the first company with a truly global footprint, not just in manufacturing, but in R&D, metal management, as well as recycling. Right? So that's the only global company that you will find out there in the NCM CAM. We have footprints in US, we have footprints in Germany, we have footprints in Asia as well. So that takes out your box that the company who has to be having significant capacities that can derive the economies of scale. Then we invest heavily in R&D. It's not just about the battery materials business unit. BASF as a group invests nearly about 2 billion euros in the R&D, which is, I think, one of the highest investments that any company do in the innovation in the R&D segment. But that's not different for us in battery materials as well. We have 4 R&D centers, world-class R&D centers. One is based in Changsha, PR, China. Second one is in our headquarters in Ludwigshafen in Germany. We also have a R&D center in Ohio in US, and the fourth one is, of course, in Onoda, Japan. So we have 4 global R&D centers that helps us deliver the first lever that it has to be an innovation and R&D driven company that delivers the performance of the required parameters to your battery. And how does this comes out for us? We have a very big product portfolio which can be chosen whether you want more energy density, You want to have more sustainability or cost aspect of the business, or you want to have more durability. And how do we do that? We do that by selecting the nickel compositions. So we can do a mid-nickel to high nickel or ultra-high nickel chemistries. We can also do manganese-rich chemistries that we are working out. So hence, we can completely, adjust the product portfolio in order to meet the requirements of your battery. Last but not the least, as I told you that in 2024, we also started our pilot plant for battery recycling, prototype plant, as well as the black mass production plant in Schwarzheide in Germany. We have also set up we are also dedicated and set up to, close the loop for these batteries. Otherwise, the aspect with which we entered into the electromobility by reducing the carbon footprint, I guess that cannot be achieved. So we have our booth. We have our booth B194 in the house, and then I would invite you to ask as many questions over there and meet the team of experts over there as well. Thank you, everyone. That's for my time.